All right, these are the exact words I use to overcome high ticket sales objections, so specifically for the high ticket space. And I know because I use this on 6,000 plus closing calls, like actual sales that I closed. Look, in this high ticket sales space, you probably have heard these objections like, I need to think about it, that sounds too expensive, I don't have the money for that right now, or hey, I need to talk to my spouse, or guys, I've even heard like, hey, I'm gonna have to ask my accountant, and we're talking about a person who makes $30,000 a year. So you've probably heard all of these objections. I'm gonna walk you through the core three. Okay, the core three objections are money, delay or think about it, and then spouse. And I'm gonna walk through the exact word tracks that I've used. I've been in this high ticket space now since 2013. That's when I started running Facebook ads, selling online high ticket fitness from my own ads. I was then Alex Hormozi's first closer. I've then started and scaled multiple seven-figure businesses. I've consulted for a bunch of high ticket sales teams. I've helped recruit, manage, scale, optimize those sales teams. So that's a little bit of me, but let me give a little caveat before I jump into these actual word tracks and words that I use to overcome these objections that come up specifically in this high ticket space. A little caveat first, okay? The sales process and like the questions you ask, the rapport that you build, like that is going to get a person to be a little bit more authentic and honest with you, where like if they have objections at the end, they'll be honest with the objections. Because otherwise, what I found is most of the time, these objections that come up at the end, they're just these like scripted replies and responses that prospects use because they just don't want your stuff. And then you have to train these reps on how to sort of cut through the fat and pull back the veil to really figure out what the real objection is. So that's caveat number one. If you actually know how to connect with people, you have a good sales process, right? You don't have some crummy, stupid script from like 2022, and you're using like this old script to sell high ticket sales. Assuming you have a good script and sales process in place, and you ask good questions, and you did help pre-handle some things, and you get to the finish line, you're still gonna get these objections. That's caveat one. Caveat two is the offer actually has to be good. So you might be getting a lot of objections because your high ticket offer is, course access and Facebook group and 2, Zoom coaching calls per week. Okay, it's just, that's not much value to people anymore at, a 5, 8, 10K price point. So hopefully your offer is really good. It's very results oriented. It mitigates the risk with some like guarantees or different things like that. But because you have to imagine, like if your kid goes to a doctor and needs a heart transplant to save their life, you're probably not gonna have many objections. You're just gonna figure out how to get the money, right? So like assuming they really want this thing, it's a good offer, that's gonna help a lot. But let's get into the exact words I use with these specific high ticket objections. All right, number one is think about it, right? So you get to the end, it's like, cool, so like, how would you like to proceed? And they're like, yeah, this sounds awesome. Let me just give it some more thought and I can get back to you, or some version of that. Like, yeah, let me just think on it and I'll get back. Yeah, just give me a few days, right? You do have to understand this objection can be both logistical and it can be fear for sure. Because it's not really an objection. It's basically like not giving a decision, right? It's not really a yes or a no. It's not giving you the real decision. So if it's logistical, you don't want to kill a logistical delay objection. What I mean is a lot of times someone's like, yeah, just give me a couple days, I'll get back to you. And then I hear the sales rep go in all these like fear reframes and like challenging and yada, yada, yada. It's like, okay, had you not done that and just uncovered with a little more discovery that they just needed to move money from one account to another, or pay off this credit card, get another, or like they can't physically start the service for 2 weeks because they have a vacation that they already had pre-planned and paid for, things like that, right? So you do want to at least make sure that you're uncovering if it's logistical. So for example, like, yeah, I just need a few days. Like, yeah, not a problem. I guess just so I can stay organized on my side, how much time are you thinking you'll need over the next couple of days, just so I can know, how to best help? And they're like, oh, yeah, I think, by Friday is probably good. Yeah, and then you kind of follow up with like, yeah, so are you just needing to like sort out the money, or is there like a timing issue? Like, I guess just so I know, because maybe I can send you some additional information. Like, what else are you needing to sort of look at to know if you should move forward or not? And then that usually will give you something logistical. Or it's gonna give you something like this. Yeah, I just honestly need more time. I just need to think it over. So they kind of stay vague and into like, no, I really just need to think about this. That's when you kind of know it's fear, right? So they give you the thing about it. It's like, yeah, no worries. How much time do you need, man? Like over the next day or two, just so I can stay organized. And they're like, yeah, maybe next week. And it's like, okay, is there something you're needing to look at specifically, like in terms of like the money piece or like getting started, just so I know if we can help? And then they're like, nah, I just really need to just think it over and kind of look at my options and stuff. That's when you know it's fear-based, okay? Now, what I like to do is I like to put a person into the identity that I want them to be in, right? Like I want them to identify as a person who does certain things or thinks a certain way. And I do that by framing the question first. So I frame the question and it puts them in this identity that I want them to have. But then I ask the question I want to ask, but now they're going to want to be in alignment with that identity that I just placed them in, which kind of helps them move this direction. Okay. So they're like, yeah, no, I really just, need some more time. And you're like, yeah, I got you. Look, you're probably just wanting a little bit more clarity on this, right? If this is the right, way for you to go. Because I'm sure you seem like a very intentional and like decisive person, so long as like you're clear on like the direction that makes the most sense for you, to put you in like the best possible position, right? They're like, yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, hey, could I offer a suggestion, like without disrespecting your process with this? And they're going to be like, yeah, sure. And then this is where I need, now that I've got them in this identity of like, you can be decisive and make decisions. It's just, you need clarity. I'm going to show how like you can't ever have full, complete clarity when you're making a decision about something new that you've never done, right? So you'd go like this. Well, yeah. So look, based on everything you shared with me today, John, I know it feels clear both to you and to me that like what you're currently doing is not, getting the results that you particularly want, right? So obviously I know like staying in the situation you're in is not something that you're wanting to do, which then kind of means like now you're at that crossroads of, okay, well, I need to take some sort of new action and what direction should I go, right? And obviously with that, any new direction is gonna require a bit of faith, right? Because it's one of those roads that you haven't traveled before. And so the question really becomes like, what information do you really need to get as much clarity as you can? And then, using faith, move forward in that direction. So I guess, is there any specific information that you need from me that wasn't discussed today? And if you did a good job, they're gonna say, no, like not really. And then you'd wanna say, cool. Well, based on what we discussed then, would this put you in a better or worse position? And they're gonna say, better position. And then you can now just simply ask, well, based on that, John, I guess, what do you think then you should do? And you can see like with my tone, and it's kind of like we're mano-a-mano, like I'm just having a real authentic talk. They're more likely now to move forward, okay? And again, why this works is because you're trying to put them in an identity that says, I can make decisions, right? I just need clarity. But there's no such thing as perfect clarity, especially with a road you've never traveled before, right? And so I'm getting them in agreement with that and understanding that, and how really the only little missing piece is like information. So then I doubled down, like what specific information then, like did we not discuss that maybe I would need to share? And if they say nothing, then it's like, well, based on what we discussed, what's gonna put you in a better position? Doing what you're doing or implementing these things? And it's like, well, implementing these things. Okay, well, based on that, what do you think you should do? And again, you're putting power in the decision-making back in their court. All right, now let's talk about money. Everyone wants to talk about the objection handling for money. And look, typically money is either, again, both logistical or fear. Like it's either rooted in uncertainty or it's very frankly logistical. Like they feel like they can't afford it. And so you have to help get them resourceful to use business credit, etc., to get into the program. And so, they're going to say like, hey man, I just don't have the money. It's kind of a lot of money. Oh, it's more expensive than I thought. So what we want to do is we want to see if it's logistical first, and then we can start wrapping into fear. And to figure out if it's logistical, I always just loved isolating and there's different ways or word tracks to isolate, but you would simply just be like, hey, like, I appreciate the money piece, and I'm happy to figure that out with you if that's what you'd want. I just want to make sure though, like, this is actually going to get you where you're wanting to go. Do you feel like that's true? So we're doubling down that the results and the value that they're going to get is there. And then we ask them to tell us why. It's like, okay, well, why do you feel that way? Right? And then they're going to start saying the reason. And then I use like this forking question. So it's like, and again, it's an identity thing. So I'd be like, so John, it's kind of sounding like your concern's less like if you should do this and kind of just more like how you should do it. Am I understanding correctly? Right? Or so is the concern like less if you should do it and just a little bit more like how to make the money part work? And if they say yes, now it's logistical solving. So it's like, I'd be like, cool, well, man, I mean, there's a way for us to break up the payments or put this into more digestible chunks. Would that sort of help you out? And then you just start having a conversation, roll out payment plans, roll out financing, roll out using a credit card, et cetera, okay? Now, if they're like, yeah, sorta, I mean, it's kind of both. Like I hear that a lot. Yeah, it's kind of both, which means it's fear, right? So now we have a fear money objection. So they're gonna say like, yeah, it's, I don't know, it's just kind of risky, or it's like, oh, it's just kind of a lot of money. And then, so again, I want to put them in an identity, and then I want to reframe and ask a question to put them down the discourse that I want them to go, because I need to overcome uncertainty and overcome fear. And so I need to build them up. I need to coach them. So you need to stay in agreement. So I'd be like, hey, look, I totally get it. None of us just like spending money. But what we do like to do, John, is we like to invest to see returns. Right? And I know that you have an investor mindset and an entrepreneurial mindset. And so you're ready and willing to take on a certain amount of risk in order to see those returns and like have your life get into a better position. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be here, right? You would just clock in for a job, take a paycheck, save as much money as you could, and play it safe. It's just that's no life I think either of us would want to live, right? So could I maybe just offer a suggestion to see if it helps? So now you're putting yourself in the position of sage, of consultant, of leader, and they're like, yeah, totally. And you'd be like, well, look, I mean, like, no disrespect to you at all if this isn't you, but like, are you wanting to live life like an investor and an entrepreneur? And like, are you willing to take on some level of risk in order to like have bigger results and higher returns? And they're gonna be like, yeah, yes, of course. And then you'd be like, well, since you do have a value for investing, I guess and then you wanna insert the service, the result that you're doing, right? So like, would investing in your health, like to lose the body fat, to get more healthy, does that put you in a better position than you are now? Right? And so you're bringing them back to results-based conversation. You can even ask specifically with this question. So it's like, so look, with you having a value for investing, like how specifically would you, like with you investing in your business, like to get higher quality leads, how does that specifically like put your business in a better position than it is now? And then they're gonna share the reasons why it puts them in a better position. And then you just simply ask them. So it's like, well, based on that thought process, what should you do to put yourself in that position? And you're totally letting them have control. You don't want to make it like cheeky and assumptive, like, well, based on that thought process, John, like, what should you do? Like, you don't want to do it like that. You don't want to be authentic. So it's like, well, I mean, based on that thought process, like, what then do you think you should do to put yourself in that position? And then they're gonna feel better about investing and spending money. But it's because we put them in that identity, and then we reframe the question, and now they're in a different spot. Okay, the third one is spouse, right? I gotta talk to my wife, I gotta talk with my partner. Sometimes like I gotta talk with, my aunt, and it's like, what are you even talking about? So what I like to do with the spouse objection, because it can be logistical, like especially if someone's investing in like a big investment with like a business opportunity, like starting, like a day trading business or a real estate investing business or like whatever it is, you know, like an AI automation business, if they're starting a business, like this is a big decision, you know, and like 10 to 20K, like that's still a good amount. And so like we do want both parties to be in it. And that's just my personal conviction. Like being married for 14 years, you know, it's like you want to be honorable to your spouse, but you also don't want someone to like abdicate their responsibility onto the spouse because they actually don't want to do this. So what you're really trying to do with this objection is uncover if it's a smokescreen. So you hear the objection of like, hey, yeah, man, this sounds great. I'm just going to run it by my wife, you know, and then I can get back to you. You want to stay in agreement. So you'd say this like, yeah, no problem. Obviously we want her to feel good about this too. And I think what's going to help like both of you guys the most, especially her, is knowing that you really want to do this, right? So I guess like, do you feel good about this? Do you want to move forward on this? So I'm re-getting engagement and buy-in from them. And they'll be like, yeah, no, I feel awesome about this. It's like, okay, and why do you feel good about it? Just so I know. I feel good for this reason, that reason, right? So then we can say, since we've got buy-in from them, so we'd be like, okay, that makes sense. So I guess what would she need to know then from you to feel the same way that you feel? Right, and then they're gonna give some of the reasons or like maybe some of the same regurgitated response that they had just given you before. But here's where we want to flip it, and it's like, well, look, to be fair to her, if the roles were reversed, right, and like she was the one looking to do this and needed your support, like would those reasons be enough for you? And that way they've doubled their buy-in. Like, I feel really good about it. She would need to know these things. That would be good enough for me. So they've kind of like sold themselves into this again, right? And then we want to put them in that identity of like that they have a healthy, trusting relationship where there's going to be support. And is there any reason why there wouldn't be support? So it would go like this. Cool. Well, it sounds like you guys have a really good relationship. There's a lot of trust there, which I love. That's awesome. And obviously, like for you, you know, growing the business right now, obviously that responsibility is going to fall on you. And I know she's going to need to support you in this. I mean, is there like any reason though at all, like that she wouldn't be able to support you in like making another 20 to 30 grand a month? And this is where like they're going to be like, no, I don't think so. There's no reason. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to turn them into the salesperson for us. So it's like they are all in aside from the spouse. What would the spouse need to know? They would need to know these things. If the roles were reversed, would that be good enough for you? Yes, it would, right? All right, she's gonna need to support you because you're the one responsible. Is there any reason why she wouldn't support you? No, there's not. So I've tripled down on them having buy-in on this. Now what I wanna do is do an emotional commitment to the sale. So that way they still feel like they can have the conversation, but they also are committing to me about moving forward. So I'd go something like this. Well, cool. Can I offer a suggestion then while still sort of respecting you guys having the conversation? They're gonna be like, yeah, that'd be great. Cool. What I can do is I can send over the agreement and the invoice. And that way you can get that taken care of like over the next day or so. But that way, John, like we can get the process started. What I'd even like to do is actually schedule the onboarding now. That way we can get things moving for you, but still obviously honor the conversation for you and her to have. Does that sound fair? Now they feel like they are still doing the thing they wanted to do, but they also are convincing themselves and emotionally committing to the sale. And that's why this works well. When you try and do these like cute, silly, like overcomes, like, well, it's better to, you know, ask for forgiveness than permission. It's like, bleh, doesn't work. So these are like the exact ways and words that I use to overcome objections. And get up away from the words a little bit, because even though word tracks and stuff are great, especially for a rep starting out and to train your reps, or for you to start with these objection handlers, like understand the method. The method is I need to stay in agreement. I need to decipher if this is logistical and if it's not, move into fear. And if it is fear, I need to place you into an identity that allows you to put yourself in the best position possible, and then slowly get you in alignment with that identity, where I'm asking you then what's best to get you to to the position you want to be in. And if you use that process, you will just see these objections. You'll start overcoming objections like crazy. If this was helpful, let me know what other content you want me to do. Please like and subscribe if you liked it. Give me a comment on other content you want me to do. I'm here to serve. I want to help build sales teams. I want to help sales organizations. I want to recruit and train good salespeople, all those things, but I also want to provide value. So let me know, and I'll catch you on the next video.